Eurobox presents En Passant, written by Ileana Stoica. En Passant is one of those novels that manages to feel intellectually sharp and emotionally exposed at the same time. What begins against the backdrop of the 2008 financial crash quickly reveals itself to be much more than a story about markets collapsing. It is, above all, a novel about what happens when a person's external life breaks apart and he's forced to confront everything that remains underneath: humiliation, loneliness, desire, family, and the difficult work of rebuilding. The fall of David's professional world in London is immediate and brutal, but the novel never stays on the surface of events. Let's welcome the author, who's our special guest today to present her new literary work. Ileana, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Ginevra. Thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here with you today for the second time.
Our pleasure. So, first of all, what prompted you to write this book?
So the book, as you've just very nicely summarized, draws a lot from my very own experiences, the lived experience of having gone through the 2008 financial crash myself, together with my family in London. But it also brings into the kaleidoscope stories shared by friends, co-workers, even acquaintances. And as always, I'm a researcher by training, so I do like to do my research. I have to say, though, that I didn't need to do a lot of research, as the story is heavily informed by my own experience. But in assembling this kaleidoscope of stories, I thought more broadly about the theme of a crisis. What does it mean to find yourself in a crisis? And of course, it's a story of survival. But looking outside at the system as a whole, well, it's been famously said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And indeed, but whereas we might think that that means the system, the organizations that led to this crisis will rectify, will change things and sort of improve moving forward, I found, and many people around me found, that actually they're playing a big game of cover-up. And chess is a metaphor that accompanies my book from the beginning to the end, and David is a passionate chess player. But it's truly the chess game played on many boards in many organizations that in effect means that the rules are reset, the players are swapped, but the game continues on. And so it is dedicated to the small heroes who live to fight another day. And David is one of these people. He doesn't want to find himself trapped as a casualty of this game, but well, yet he does. And so it's up to him to face all these Goliaths and find the wherewithal and intelligence to, well, not necessarily play the game himself, but understand it and turn things around so that he minimizes the harm that can be done.
Great. So this was the origin and what prompted you to start writing the book. But what is your goal? I mean, what do you hope that readers can take away from this reading?
Well, another part of the whole process was I realized that unfortunately we might be closer to such a crisis than we actually want to be. And so it is in a way teaching a lesson, but it's not in a pedagogical way at all. And I think storytelling is the best form of teaching. But it's also trying to bring us closer to understanding the mechanisms by which systems, organizations function, and just at the end of the day, be more aware of what's happening around us and how we can influence a little bit this power dynamic that's at play.
All right. How difficult it is to shift from writing a memoir like the one you wrote previously, which is Where the Heart Isn't, to writing fiction?
It was not easy. So with memoir, I found it quite natural that the only lens that's needed is your very own. With fiction, and especially I set myself the task of inhabiting a male character, so a male mind, a male body in a way. I thought it was a test of objectiveness, but also a test of myself as a fiction author. And I'm tackling heavy themes, the theme of abuse, for instance. I'm talking about emotional, physical, sexual, organizational, financial abuse. And we really don't tend to connect this with men. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be picked up in modern storytelling. I'm also talking about losing faith, regaining faith. Faith is also something that we don't pay enough attention to in our modern lives. And it can form, and it could form part, faith in oneself really could form part of the modern storytelling. So that was hard to start with. But then as I created my characters and I breathed life into them and they started acting their parts, I found that I wasn't really prescriptive, and I just let them evolve organically as the story developed. And if the story has twists and turns, it's because life has twists and turns and intrigue. And then I also found that I wasn't judgmental. And I think that helped me, because I am not a judgmental or moralistic person. And even though I'm talking about constructs that we tend to see very black and white, like sociopath, empath, and so on, I really found myself kind of liking even my villains. And so I wasn't judgmental, and I let the reader form their own opinions. And in fact, I close on this note that I'm saying it with pride. The only thing that's black and white in my book is the chessboard.
Thank you very much, Ileana, again for being with us, and we want to wish you best luck with your second published book.
Thank you so much, Ginebra. Thank you.
En Passant is then a thoughtful and unusual and emotionally intelligent novel. It will speak not only to readers interested in stories shaped by history and crisis, but also to those who are drawn to fiction about inner fracture, about moral ambiguity, and the slow path back to oneself. En Passant, written by Ileana Stoica, is now available in bookstores and digital platforms. It's a publication by Eurobox.